you. Go ahead and mute yourself. So that way you're not disturbing others. Like if you have a little brother or sister running around, or a dog, okay, or a hamster that's especially noisy today. All right, so I'm going to do it so you can see my screen.
Nothing. Wait, is it this one? The Rise of the Third?
Yeah, the Rise of the Nazis. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about yesterday. I'm going to go back. Don't write anything right for a second. We're just going to go back. We talked about how Germany was in a really bad situation. We talked about how they owed a lot of money, which is what caused the inflation because they had to pay war reparations. We talked about how there's lots of dead soldiers, so they don't have a lot of workforce. A lot of people are sick or dead or wounded. They lost a lot of land. They shouldered the blame for World War I. Remember, they were guilty of the whole thing, according to the British and the French. They had to give up their military, and they had very little food. So Germany's in a really bad situation. We talked about the Weimar Republic, which was the really weak government that was set up after the Allies kicked the Kaiser out and forced him to abdicate. And we talked about how there were a lot of riots, and Germany was not a good place to be. We talked
Should we write these down?
No, you already did yesterday.
Okay.
I'm just running through to remind you. We talked about hyperinflation, and we looked at in Germany how 170 Deutschmarks was originally 1 ounce of gold, but in 4 years it was 87 trillion Deutschmarks. Okay. And we looked at the pictures of how they had way too much money because the money became worthless. And we said that eventually 1 trillion marks would be used for $1 US.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to look at today, the first part, you're not actually writing anything. We're going to be looking at propaganda posters. Was propaganda one of our words before?
Yeah.
Okay. So propaganda posters were used very widely by both sides during World War II. But even before World War II, there were propaganda posters that the Nazis were using to get people interested in their party. Okay. So this is a picture, and you see our Nazi symbol up here. It says Arbeit und Brot, which means work and bread. And you see the guys handing them a bunch of tools, okay, to these people's hands. Can somebody speak? I can't see anyone, and say what you think this poster might be saying to people.
If you vote for us, like, you work and food.
Yeah, so it's saying we're going to provide you work and we're going to give you food, which is something that you definitely want if you have no money, your money is worthless, and you have a food shortage. So this would really get people interested. And I don't know how much detail you guys can see, but can you see this guy's arms?
Yeah.
Do you see the veins in there? It's showing how strong he is. Like he's a Nazi. Okay, and this is another one. Arbeiter, der Stern, der Faust, for Frontsoldaten Hitler. Okay, so Arbeiter is worker. So it's talking about the workers. And how would you describe how these workers look? What do you think, Sage?
Very strong.
Yeah, really strong. So
German.
all the Nazi posters always depict the Germans as very strong, very powerful men. Okay. All right. Again, we have this strong Nazi. Okay. He looks very blonde, very fair, and he has these big biceps. Okay. It says, Unsere Bausteine, our building blocks. Arbeit, which is work. Freiheit, freedom. Brot, bread. And then it says, Baupläne der anderen, so the building plans of others. And you see these guys. Lily, how would you describe how these guys look? Small, right? And like kind of weedy compared to this guy. And then their plans are Social Abbau, Korruption, Terror, Hetze, Lüge. So lies and terror and corruption. So yeah, you would vote for this guy. Why would you vote for this guy? Okay.
What's that like little symbol right there? It looks like an H.
I think what they used to do is they used to number their ballots, and you would vote for like a number. So it says also, so therefore, National Socialismus, choice 8. So National Socialisten or Listen is what the Nazis were actually called was the National Socialists. So it's saying vote choice 8 for the Nazis. All right. Obviously, we have our Nazi swastika here. Freiheit und Brot. So another freedom and bread. And then we have these factory workers. If you are making lots of noise on your microphone, mute yourself. Wir sind für Adolf Hitler. We are for Adolf Hitler, and they're workers at a factory. Okay, this one's a little different. So before we'd seen all these strong Nazi workers, this one is specifically for women. Frauen. I can barely read it. Your choice for your family is Adolf Hitler. Let's see. Somebody who's not talked before. What do you think this poster might be talking about?
That the woman should vote for Adolf?
Yeah. So this is trying to get the women to vote because you have this strong Nazi father, and she's making German children who will become future Nazis. So this is trying to encourage the women to vote.
Women were allowed to vote?
I think women were allowed to vote, but women did not have. Women were not expected to be leaders. They were expected to be at home raising the babies who will one day be good Nazis. So you were encouraged to have lots of children, and you were encouraged to raise them up as good Nazis. Okay. This is a really interesting picture. Es lebe Deutschland. So Germany lives. So you see, obviously Adolf Hitler. Okay. Do you see the windswept hair here? And do you see what's up in the sky? A bird, almost like an eagle, a majestic eagle, and the sun is coming out, and he's got the flag. He looks like a national hero, and look, all these people are around him. Oh, such a beautiful picture. And then look up here, we have all this beautiful, looks like gold leaf, and a big German eagle with a swastika. So, how would you describe this picture?
Well, it kind of makes me think of like what happened last night because there was like this really bright star and I didn't know what it was. And I thought the heavens were opening because like the moon was also really bright and all that. And it kind of looks like the heavens are opening in this picture almost.
Yes, the heavens are opening. Is that like some biblical references there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Hitler was really smart. He played off of historical references. This is almost like a biblical reference. It looks to me like you see the pictures with Jesus and the dove and God's love shining down. He's going to play on what people already know. Okay. He's a really smart guy. Also, you see the army behind him, right? He's this big leader. Does this kind of look like you think of like national symbols with people with their flag? Like, I am leading my people. Okay. So,
Miss Bella,
yes.
did I miss anything? I came a little late. I was watching my brother. I'm sorry.
But we'll talk at the end, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we're not writing anything yet, Audrey. We're just looking at pictures. So based off these images, what kinds of things does Hitler and the Nazis stand for? Let's have someone new talk who has not talked yet. Olivia, what do you think? Olivia, would you want to vote for the Nazis based off these pictures if you were in Germany?
No.
No. Okay. Azzy, what do you think about these pictures?
I feel like they're like really getting people to want to vote for Hitler to support him.
Mm-hmm. So you guys have to remember you have to look at why Hitler rose in the context of history. Okay. So people always ask, how could Hitler have happened? How could he have taken control? Well, Germany was in a really bad place, and he makes himself out to look like a really strong leader. So he makes very vague promises, most of which involve fixing the economy. So if you promise people jobs, if you promise people food, they're more likely to want to vote for you. Okay? So here's the situation. There's a weak government in Germany. This is a picture of people in Russia having a big riot, and people were afraid that that would happen in Germany too. They have worthless money. There's no food. There's 35% unemployment. So the Germans are really afraid they're going to have a Russian revolution in their country. So if you think back to the Russian Revolution, that's going to have a lot of influence on why the Nazis are actually elected. The Germans are really, really afraid that they're going to have a big civil war, and then they're going to have a communist government, because people who are out of work and a lot of workers generally vote communist. Okay, so this is just some back history, okay? How does Hitler get elected? So if you look at the third one, the Nazis only ever receive 37% of the vote. So if we have a president now, he has to get like 50%, right? The Nazis only ever get 37% of the vote. And this shows kind of the rise of the Nazi Party. So the Nazi Party is our top one. In the first year, so May 1928, they only got 12 votes. Okay, but then a year and a half later, they had 108 votes. And then 2 years later, 230. And then it goes down, and then it goes back up. But then at the end, they got all the votes because they didn't let anyone vote for anyone else. Hitler is elected not because people like Hitler, but because people are afraid of the communists. So people voted for the Nazis because they figured that people could rally around them versus having communism. They were really afraid of the communists. Any questions?
Why were they afraid of communism?
Because they watched what happened in Russia, and they saw all the people getting killed. And they were afraid that if you're a communist country, you lose all your property. So the government tells you everything you have to do. You don't own anything. You are told where you have to work. All that stuff. Any other questions? Okay. Okay, so this is the first part you need to write down then. Okay, left-hand side, Hitler becomes chancellor. Chancellor means you're essentially the president of Germany. Uh-huh.
Are these a continuation of the notes from yesterday, or are these new notes?
These are, you can add them to the ones from yesterday.
Oh.
Or just make new notes. That's fine. As long as you got notes. They're the same thing. It's just the next day. So he becomes the Chancellor of Germany. He's elected. It's important to remember that. He doesn't just take power. He actually is elected by the people. He is called Der Führer, which literally means the leader. So it'd be like calling the president the leader. Okay. And he was seen as a symbol of hope for a new Germany. So this is the famous picture. Hitler is taking power as Chancellor. He's got a German guard here. And then this is Paul von Hindenburg, who was in charge of the Weimar Republic after World War I. They're greeting each other because Hitler's just won the election, and now he's the new Chancellor of Germany. Any questions?
No.
Is there anything you're supposed to write, like, called after that?
I'm sorry?
So, like, you know how there's, like, the thing, it's just, like, elected by the German people, and then it's just called with, like, dots?
You can just write Der Führer. You don't have to write called. So once Hitler is actually elected, they pretty much shut down all the other other parties. So it'd be like, let's say the Green Party of the United States won the election. They said, okay, no one else can have a party anymore. The only party for our country is the Green Party. Okay. So all the other parties were forced to leave. Any questions about this?
No.
No.
Is everybody finished writing?
No.
Right, Audrey, you done?
Almost.
Okay.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. All right, Mein Kampf, just write the blue part, okay? So Hitler actually ends up, before he becomes president, he actually ends up getting sent to jail because he tries to overthrow the government in the southern part of Germany, and it doesn't work out too well. So he ends up in jail. While he's in jail, he writes this book. It's called Mein Kampf, which means my struggle. And until about maybe 10 years ago, it was actually illegal to buy, to sell, or to print or to read this book in Germany because it was such a bad book. In this book, Hitler kind of outlines his plan for what he wants to do, and mostly he just complains about how much he doesn't like the Jews and how we need a new strong leader for Germany. So this is like his manifesto, like what he wants to do as the leader.
I just don't understand, why does he not like the Jews? Why does he blame it all on the Jews? Like,
That's our next thing. Okay, I'm gonna switch. Is that okay?
Also, Miss Ballard. You said that today you were gonna tell, like you were going to explain to us. Like,
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do it at the end, Audrey. Okay, so you don't need to write anything. This is just some back history. Okay, the history of the Jews. So why are the Jews always the ones who are chosen? Okay, have trouble, have bad things happen to them. So from the beginning of time, like when we read the Bible, the Jews have been mistreated. They lose their land all the time. They don't have a homeland. So the Jews end up going to different parts of Europe. Unfortunately, it's very easy for people to hate on the Jews because they are a different group of people living in your country. In 1492, the king and queen of Spain actually told all the Jews in Spain they had to leave. They're expelled. So that's 1492. We already see evidence of people mistreating the Jews. Okay, do you guys see this bottom one, anti-Semitism? Okay, go ahead. This should be highlighted. Go ahead and write this down. Anti-Semitism is racial prejudice against the Jews. The Jews were especially disliked because the Jewish people usually were very wealthy. So it's easy to use somebody as a scapegoat who is a different race and who is wealthy. People are now distrustful of them.
Wait, Miss
Throughout
Ballard,
history, people have hated the Jews.
Miss Ballard, should we write that under Mein Kampf?
I would write anti-Semitism on your left, and then racial prejudice against the Jews on the right.
What does Semitism mean?
So the root word is Semitic, which means Jewish. So anti-Jewish.
Be quiet.
So throughout history, we see this long hatred of the Jews. I mean, guys, we see it in the Bible over and over, how they're mistreated. So they're easy, like throughout history, to be a scapegoat. And a lot of people still really hate the Jews. It's terrible how mistreated they are. All right, can I change the slide?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right, Audrey.
Oh, sorry. Okay, you can change it now.
Okay, so you don't need to write this, but this is just to think about. More Jews served in World War I than in proportion to the population. Okay. Now, Hitler, we talked about, served in World War I as well. And he was actually recommended for an Iron Cross, which is a big award, by his Jewish commanding officer in World War One. So there's lots of Jews fighting for Germany during World War One, and people pretty much forget this or like pretend it never happened.
Miss Ballard, do you think that he actually hated them, or do you think he was just using that as an excuse?
I think mostly it was an excuse, Isabel, to start with, but I think by the end he had deluded himself into actually thinking what he was telling people.
Okay.
Okay, so Hitler would do these dramatic speeches, and in his speeches, he's powerful and charismatic. He would practice poses and gestures beforehand so they would look the most powerful. So he
Are
actually
you writing this?
no, he would set up a camera
Yeah.
and he would take pictures so he could see how he looked when he did different things. So this is actually pictures from a camera that he took while he was practicing speeches, so he would know how his different gestures would affect people. Isn't that great? Okay. So he would practice.
My new
He
pose.
was very much an actor, guys. He was very, very good at getting people's attention. Okay, video time.
Ew.
And once again, Germany speaks to the world from the Nazi Party rally, not only with the voice of her politicians, but with the swinging rhythm of a mighty show. And more than 50,000 girls of the Youth Corps turned the giant stadium into a field of human pity. And the Labour Corps, armed with spades, as they march towards the camera and swing right, watch the sun glint on bright steel.
Ballard,
Okay.
have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
I have not. I need to though. Is it good?
It's very good.
I will have to put that on my list. Okay, so did you guys see how many people were in that video?
Yeah.
Thousands of people would be at these rallies he would have. Okay, I'm gonna mute somebody. Who do I need to mute? Let's look. Who is it? Not some noise. Ah, Mr. Bradshaw, it is you. Okay, so you would have these huge rallies, and people, they would have the women would show up and they would be dancing, and then you'd have the Hitler Youth, which was like the middle schoolers and high schoolers, and even sometimes the elementary school kids who would do things showing how much they loved Hitler, and then you have the military parades. So think about it. You live in a Germany where there's not enough food to eat, where there's no work, and you've been told that it's all your fault that World War I happened. So this would really resonate with most of the people in the population. Okay, here's another video of Nuremberg. So Nuremberg is where they'd have these giant rallies, and you can still go see where they did it.
I made a connection.
Okay.
The dove, like the dove, where it showed the dove and then the
Ah, yeah. You see the symbolism, don't you?
or the eagle, whatever it was.
Uh-huh. So, also, if you've seen I don't know about the new Lion King, I haven't seen it, but if you've seen the old Lion King, when you have Scar standing on the rock and all the hyenas going past him, it should look really similar. They're actually taking it off of what's happening in Nuremberg, where Hitler's standing up and all the people are walking in step. Okay. So what I want you to realize from this is he would have these huge parades and spectacles. You should also be thinking about, how are they able to have a military when they're not allowed to do it with the Treaty of Versailles? So keep that in the back of your mind, okay?
Miss
All right.
Mel, how old was Hitler when all that was happening?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think he was in his 40s.
But wasn't he like really young when he started?
I will look, and I will tell you as you look. Okay. So on the left, like the brown shirts.
Is that the Waffen SS?
It's kind of a precursor to it, Sage. So this is Hitler's private Nazi army. He had a private army before he had a German army. So imagine somebody in our country just doesn't like how the country's being run, Joe Schmo, okay? And Joe Schmo goes and he gets all his buddies and they make their own army to do whatever they want. So that was the blue part. Mm-hmm.
Who's Mussolini?
We're going to do Mussolini next week. We're actually going to go back to him. So he was the leader of Italy. So we're going to talk next week about how Hitler borrowed a lot of things from Mussolini. He stole a lot of ideas from him.
Wait, but why is it only like 20 people?
Here, this is like his leaders of his group.
I thought that's like his whole army, and I was like,
no, it's just the leaders. So he was born in 1889. So he would have been 1909, 1919, 1909, 1939. He would have been right about 40 when the war started.
okay.
All right. And that is all of that for today. The one thing I did want to cover, though, is we had a question. Guys had a lot of questions about the money, why we need to have money. It's really interesting because I can tell you guys go to Covenant and you care about justice, because I get this question every year. So I thought about it a lot yesterday and how I wanted to explain it. And what I noticed is the only way we can really think about it is through a biblical sense. Okay. So the question was, why do we have to have money? Why can't everybody just have what they need? Okay. So in heaven, you have everything you need. And that was God's original plan with the Garden of Eden, right? You weren't lacking with anything. Everyone had the same amount of stuff. Everyone had food. It was good. Okay. That was the beginning of creation. But because of the fall, we really, we struggle to make sure that everyone has what they need. So if we didn't have money, let's say that we talk about coronavirus right now. Let's say that Dearborg said, okay, everybody can come in and you can get whatever you need for coronavirus, but make sure that everybody gets something. Okay. We want to make sure we're here for all of our people.
Why can't they just limit it? Because like at Trader Joe's, it's like you can only take like 2 meats.
Mm-hmm.
You can only take like 2.
Okay. So let's start here. Okay. Here's the first thing. Let's say that you walk in and you get what you need. We saw from last week and the week before, people are hoarding things, right? People are hoarding the toilet paper. Okay. Of all the things, the toilet paper, right? So because people are hoarding toilet paper, some people have a bunch and some people have none. Now, it would be nice if people who had a lot gave it to people who had none, but that's just not how people work. We're fallen, okay? And people don't always care more for each other, care enough for each other. So Lily, what was your second question? Why don't they limit it? Was your next question?
Why don't they just like limit it? Like you only take 2 toilet papers and they come back tomorrow.
Okay, so part of human nature is always to serve yourself first. Okay, you have to stop yourself and say, I need to give to people. And the second thing, right now, the problem is we don't have enough for everybody. Okay, there's not enough supply for how much demand there is. So there's scarcity. So there has to be, people have to be willing to give up things to be able to get their toilet paper.
But then, like the toilet paper company, whoever makes that, why can't they just give stores like? Why can't there just be one big store with a lot of toilet paper?
A toilet paper store?
Toilet paper store. Why don't, or you mean like, why doesn't the federal government just give toilet paper to people, right? Why don't
Yeah,
you
like drop it by the front step.
toilet paper at everybody's house? Okay, if you were a company that made toilet paper, why would you want to make toilet paper then? If you didn't get paid to do it?
For
No reason.
no, that's not true. You want to help people.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you wanna help people.
About that.
But
If you're not
why would you want to help people when you're not going to get paid though? You need to feed your own family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, then why can't
Not unless seriously, as like a seriously one person who really likes to help people but doesn't care about themselves like whatsoever.
No, I just don't understand. Like why we make own money and then our boss just keeps paying us instead. Like we just make our own toilet paper, and then the toilet paper gets dropped by your front step.
Well, where is he gonna get the? Well, where is he gonna get the money to pay you?
He's gonna get the money from the government because the government should.
The government doesn't want to give him money to do that.
But he has to pay taxes.
People have to realize: do you want toilet paper or do you want money to buy the toilet paper? Why don't we just like not care about toilet